Hey everybody, welcome to The Trench. My name is Christian, and today we're going to talk about understanding boundaries. Last time, when we discussed empathy, I mentioned that in order for empathy to work, we need to be able to establish boundaries, to be able to tell the difference between our experience and someone else's. Boundaries are often painted in terms of just saying no, and that's definitely part of what boundaries are about, but that's not the only thing that they are. Boundaries actually enable rather than prohibit relationship, because relationship can only exist if there is distinction between persons. Relationships exist between a you and an I, but you and I can't have a relationship if we can't tell the difference between you and I. And it is boundaries that help me know where I end and where you begin. Proper boundaries help us balance two natural drives, the drive for individuality and the drive for togetherness. Boundaries help me to remain a distinct person while also allowing me to remain in relationship with you without being overtaken by or overtaking you, because you are your own person with your own thoughts and feelings and behaviors that you and only you are responsible for. In other words, boundaries allow us to overcome otherness, not by obliterating it by losing ourselves, but allowing us to establish real communion between distinct others, between you and I. Boundaries are essential for helping me establish what is my responsibility and what is not my responsibility, what is me and what is not me. But for Christians, this idea of something not being our responsibility may seem a bit mean or callous or closed off. After all, aren't we supposed to care for other people and give without expecting in return? Well, yes, but it's a bit more complicated than that. You see, unfortunately, we often struggle to maintain the balance between individuality and togetherness, and so we may fall off the horse on one side or the other, leading us to a couple of unhealthy patterns of interaction. We may fall off on the side of too much togetherness, living with diffuse or no boundaries, leaving us unable to differentiate ourselves from someone else, causing us to take responsibility for problems or feelings that simply aren't ours. With no boundaries in place, we wrongly fuse ourselves with someone else's, causing our distinction to disappear. And when this happens, we may base our own feelings on somebody else's. So instead of being there when someone is sad, we may be overcome with sadness ourselves, keeping us from being available to and for others. So instead of empathically feeling with others, allowing them to struggle with problems that are their problems become our problems, and we are swallowed by the pain, causing us either to wallow in the pain or to resolve the problem. Their problem.
Hey babe.
Hey hon, what's up?
I don't know, I'm just having a really hard time with work lately.
Why? What's going on?
I don't know, like my boss, you know how like she overworks me and I already feel so underpaid. Well then the other day at like the break room, I heard her talk about me with some other coworkers. I just don't even feel like going there anymore. Where are you going?
I am calling your boss right now.
No.
Hello, is this Jackie? Yeah, hi Jackie, this is Michaela's husband. I heard you were talking about my wife the other day, but no, wait, I'm sorry, wait.
Babe, why did you do that?
The good news is that you're not gonna have to worry about dealing with Jackie today, or tomorrow, or ever, because they're firing you.
What?
They fired you.
Why did you do that?
You're fired.
Oh my gosh, you know that I was just venting.
My bad. A life without boundaries makes us powerless, leaving us far too vulnerable to outside circumstances to determine how we think, feel, and behave. And a life without boundaries actually causes us to leave other people powerless as well, because when they're having problems, we try to solve them for them. Moreover, a lack of boundaries can actually backfire on us, as the person we are trying to care for begins to feel our inappropriate anxiety about their problem. They have to ignore their own appropriate anxiety in order to help us deal with our inappropriate anxiety, leaving their needs completely overlooked. It's all really quite unhealthy, don't you think? The other thing that we may do is put up boundaries that are too rigid, which are really just walls born out of too much individuality. So if too much togetherness causes no or diffuse boundaries, then too much individuality causes walls or too rigid of boundaries.
Oh, hey bros, listen, my car totally broke down right in front of your house. I was wondering if I could use your phone to call AAA.
When we do this, we cut off relationship altogether. Whether we put up those walls because of fear or a lack of concern or some other reason, we end up with the opposite of over-identification. We may not lose ourselves in someone else, but rather we do end up completely isolated and alone. Good boundaries, on the other hand, neither go too far into individuality nor too far into togetherness, but rather good boundaries allow us to walk the tension between individuality and togetherness. They allow us to remain distinct persons in real communion. This means when you come to me and you're feeling particularly anxious, I don't get totally wrapped up or overwhelmed by your anxiety. Nor do I tell you to talk to the hand girl because the face ain't listening. Good boundaries help me remain distinct and in relationship. They allow me to say, I'm not anxious, you're anxious, but I am here for you. So let's talk about what's going on. I'm able to join you without being overcome or overwhelmed. I'm able to hold on to my own feelings and sense of self while allowing you to share your experience while I use my experience to empathize with yours. As you can see, emotional and personal boundaries are very complicated, so let's try to make some more sense of this with a concrete image. Let's metaphor!
Dude, don't you think people are tired of this joke?
I don't care what people think. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Okay. You may not like jokes or metaphors, but I do. So you are welcome to listen or to not listen. In their awesome book, Boundaries, Drs. Henry Cloud and John Townsend draw out the idea of boundaries with the image of a neighborhood. A neighborhood is full of separate properties, and in this particular imaginary neighborhood, each property is marked off by a fence. Not a wall, not an invisible imaginary line, a fence. The fence lets everyone know that the owner of the property is responsible for whatever happens within that fence. Fences, however, also have gates, and they open from the inside. So it's the owners who are the ones who get to decide who comes into their home and who does not. Fences are both firm and movable. They create more distinction than a lack of borders, but not the extreme division of a wall meant to entirely keep the outside world out there, nor the inside world in here. So too, our personal boundaries are the fences that help us protect ourselves without entirely shutting out others. Good boundaries allow us to be ourselves while also freeing us to allow others to be themselves in relationship with us. In Christ, we see a great example of boundaries. When his friend Lazarus was dying, Christ didn't feel the need to drop everything and rush off to the aid of those who were suffering. Christ let them manage their responsibilities, their own overwhelming feelings, knowing that he soon would be there to manage his own set of responsibilities in this particular instance. Even though he knew what he was going to do, Christ didn't arrive and act like some stoic cowboy who didn't care about Lazarus. Oh, contraire, Jesus wept. It's those clear boundaries that brought Christ to the edge of the tomb, allowing him to empathize with the grief of Lazarus' family. But Christ didn't cross that boundary. He didn't enter death himself or somehow internalize their grief and feel super guilty about not showing up before he died. He joined their humanity without losing his divinity. He knew that he was responsible to the Father and responsible for fulfilling the Father's mission of overcoming death with life. And then he called Lazarus back from the dead. Boundaries are confusing and hard, and there's no easy way to wrap our minds around them. They take great sensitivity, discernment, and practice, but they're essential to maintain if we're going to come together as distinct persons, united in Christian love. So join the fight, live Orthodoxy, remember to like and subscribe, and join the rest of us inside the trench.
I am reading.
You're so mean.
What are we crying about? Okay, can you do me a favor? Can you just slam the door in my face a couple times? Like just